Annyeonghaseyo. How are you, all my beautiful people? Welcome to the alternate point of view. I am super excited that I got some responses from Lisa and Maureen. Thank you so much. You guys are the true OGs and my true super faithful, and I really, really appreciate it. So we are working on getting more subscribers. I have made a whole 4 cents, so I'm super excited. I'm probably never going to receive a check from YouTube, but whatever. So let's get right into this. Today we are talking about Lindsay Clancy. And as I said before, I'm very interested in this because of the postpartum is a huge topic of conversation for me. It doesn't make it right, but I know that this happens a lot to mothers and their children. So let's talk about Lindsay Clancy and this horrible day for her husband, Patrick Clancy, who had just got home from running an errand after about just a half an hour. It didn't take him long. He went to a restaurant to pick up food. He had to leave his home office in the basement to get food and medicine at the request of Lindsay. And as he entered the house, he instantly felt something was very wrong. It was way too quiet. So the silence was almost deafening. Have you ever been in a situation like that where the silence is almost just like eerily deafening? Kind of like, I would imagine, like how all of us felt on 9/11, where we were. I'm remembering that moment. So anyway, he called out for his wife, Lindsay, and the 3 kids. And he feels just this wash of dread come over him. So he calls his wife's phone and nothing, just silence. So when he gets to the bedroom on the 2nd floor, he realizes it was locked, but he managed to get it open. And this is just the rising terror in his body is happening. His fears were confirmed when he saw blood on the floor in front of the mirror and the window open. He knew exactly what had happened. Patrick ran to the backyard to find his wife laying on the ground in a pool of blood. Her wrist and neck were cut, unable to move. She had jumped out of the window. So she tried to kill herself, but she was still alive. He immediately called 911, repeatedly asked her, "What did you do?" While on the call, he searches for his children, going down to the basement, calling out, guys, where are you? And then came the endless screaming. So not only did he just find his wife thrown out a window, or where she threw herself out a window, cut her throat and her wrist, he finds his children. Patrick can be heard hollering in the background on the 911 call. This is the tragic case of Lindsay Clancy and her 3 children, and we will pick it apart meticulously to see the dangers of postpartum depression. So, Patrick describes Lindsay as a kind, compassionate woman. The couple never took their children for granted. She was a labor and delivery nurse at the Massachusetts General Hospital, while he worked at his home office in the basement of their summer street house in Duxbury. Lindsay loved being a nurse, and the only thing she cared more for were her 3 children. 5-year-old Cora, 3-year-old Dawson, and 8-month-old Callan. So Lindsay had been struggling with postpartum depression for a long time. She was taking over 10 psychotropics, 10 different medications. And this normally happens, right? We have to know that the one thing about postpartum depression in the US is 1 in 7 women go through it. It might start off as intrusive thoughts, things people don't really want to admit, such as wanting to dramatically throw a crying colic baby across the room. This is completely normal for new mothers because it's so overwhelming. I mean, look at her situation. She had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an 8-month-old. I mean, this has to be overwhelming, and she's a nurse. So, as I said, it's overwhelming, and with little to no time off of work, being a nurse, you're working around the clock. It takes very long to get used to being responsible for a whole human being, much less 3 human beings, and your home. Postpartum counseling really should be a part of the birth plan. And I agree with this because, or at least on the national healthcare system for easy access. Mothers are expected to shoulder most of the work involving raising the children, which means they do in fact need a support system. Now, I have talked about my postpartum depression before. I suffered from it from both of my children. So if any of you ladies out there know what I'm talking about, please feel free. Because when we're moving on to postpartum psychosis, it's completely very rare. Around about 1 in 1,000 cases, with 2 to 5% resulting in infanticide or suicide. So the probability of a murder/suicide is about 0.002% to 0.005%. Since the consequences are so permanent and the stakes are so high, postpartum psychosis must be treated in a medical emergency, as a medical emergency, actually. So by the end of September 2022, Lindsay was anxious about going back to work and consulted 2 psychiatrists to treat her postpartum depression and generalized anxiety. That never goes away, by the way, y'all. If any of y'all have suffered postpartum, generalized anxiety is something that we carry forever and ever. In October, Lindsay Clancy felt upset because she couldn't give her youngest child all of her attention. This made her depressed and sometimes led to tough evenings with her oldest kids. However, by December of 2022, a doctor cleared her of her postpartum depression because she didn't show the usual signs typically associated with postpartum depression. I will tell you, again, as I've said before, my therapist only knows what I tell her. Y'all know probably more about me than my therapist does. And I have said that time and time again. So if you act a certain way to your therapist, they are going to sign off on you and be like, you're all good. So in December of 2022, Lindsay Clancy had suicidal thoughts and thoughts of harming her children, which her husband had even reported to the police. So on January 1st, 2023, she voluntarily admitted herself to McLean Hospital, but was discharged 4 days later, with no signs of being a danger to herself or others. In mid-January, her husband asked if she still struggled with suicidal thoughts, and she claimed that that had subsided. On January 22nd, 2023, the Clancy family had dinner at a friend's house where Lindsay appeared normal. Patrick confirmed she had anxiety about returning to work, but combined with ineffective medications and benzodiazepines, if you haven't taken those, withdrawal issues and severe side effects. I mean, I can just tell you, I can totally relate to all of this entire situation because, again, especially after my second child, the postpartum was real, the thoughts were real, and I also was, admitted into a hospital because they also cleared me because, of course, I was like, oh no, I'm fine. So 24th of January, 2023, that day started off with a visit to the doctor for Cora. We all know the nurse and the pediatrician reported Lindsay was in a good mood. Once back at home, the kids played in the snow outside with Lindsay texting the pictures to her mother and to Patrick. At 4:02 p.m., she looks up Kids Miralax. on her cell phone. Again, y'all, as I say, the data doesn't lie. So 10 minutes later, her search history shows that she looked up takeout for 3V using Apple Maps to see the duration of the route from Duxbury to 3V Plymouth. She calls CVS at the 189 Summer Street, Kingston, to inquire if they had children's Miralax. 4:53 p.m., Lindsay texts her husband, any chance you want takeout from 3V? I didn't cook anything. It's been a long day. So, of course, he's like, sure. So they decided on the food, which, of course, this is one of their favorite restaurants, by the way, in case y'all didn't know. She ordered it for pickup. So she was conscious enough to do these searches, call the pharmacy, call the restaurant, order the food, and then she texts her husband at 5:15 to get Pedialyte liquid stool softener. So while Patrick ran these errands, he called her around 5:33. She didn't pick up, but called him right back a minute later. During the call, Patrick noticed she sounded like she was in the middle of something, but that's how it is with 3 kids, right? So, like, of course she sounded busy, like distracted. That's probably why she didn't answer the phone the first time, but she did call him back. So, after grabbing the food, he got home around 6:09. So, from 5:15 to 6:09, this is how long it takes for him to pick up their food, get to the pharmacy, and come home. He grabs the food, and he gets home to silence, just dead silence. Patrick called Lindsay, but she didn't answer. Later, he discovered the locked bedroom, calling with the blood on the floor, and found her injured in the backyard. And then he calls 911. When he goes down into the basement, he could not stop screaming, y'all. And I wouldn't be able to either, because he found all 3 of his babies on the floor, strangled with exercise bands. This is a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an 8-month-old, y'all. And they're strangled to death with exercise bands. By the time paramedics got there, it was too late for Cora and Dawson. And little Callan was rushed to the hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. So all 3 of the kids died. So what's the aftermath? Lindsay is laying in the backyard in a pool of blood where she slit her wrist and her neck and threw herself out the window. Her 3 children are now dead because she strangled them with exercise bands, and she's regaining consciousness at the hospital. The first thing Lindsay asks is, did she need a lawyer? Which obviously tells you she has the mental clarity enough to know that she messed up. Okay. However, she was emotionless for a long time, and this is very common in depression and postpartum depression. She was unable to smile or cry. She confessed to Patrick that she had a moment of psychosis when he left, where she heard a male voice urging her to kill the kids. I find that very hard to believe because, again, if any of you ladies have been through postpartum depression, there's no voice that talks to you. It is you. It's your conscious. It's your subconscious that talks to you. Lindsay Clancy will undergo 6 months of extended mental health care at a Tewksbury State Hospital while facing charges for 2 counts of murder, 3 counts of strangulation or suffocation, and 3 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon in the deaths of her children. Postpartum depression left untreated due to limited access to mental health care tragically culminated in this heartbreaking loss of these 3 beautiful, innocent children, and this devastating the lives of this once happy family. The urgent need for improved accessibility to mental health care is just, we've got to up the ante, y'all. Like, we have to get adequate support for mothers and experiencing postpartum depression. It's not only essential to support their well-being, but also crucial for the safety of their stability, of their families, the kids. By prioritizing mental health care services and reducing barriers to care, we can prevent such heartbreaking tragedies. and ensure that all individuals receive the help they need during vulnerable moments in their life. So, I mean, what do you guys think about this? I mean, this has happened not through Lindsay Clancy only. We've had Susan Smith, which there was another man involved in that situation. Also, Diane Downs. There was, of course, another man involved in that situation. The lady in Texas that drowned all five of her children, actually. So, like, postpartum is real, y'all. It is a real situation. It's not something that you can just get past through trying 20, 10, whatever different medications. You definitely need help. But again, like I've said to y'all many times, my therapist only knows what I tell her. And again, y'all know more about me and what I've been through and the thoughts that I have had than she does. But that postpartum is real as it can be. And I can promise you, when you have those thoughts, you really do get to a point where you think it makes sense. So, you know, I'll just be real and honest. I was going through a horrible time. I had postpartum depression with my second child. And I really did have thoughts of, like, what if I just drove off a bridge with both of us in the car, just to get us so we would be together. At the time, in my head, that made sense. But then, of course, what just happened to Lindsay Clancy, where she was successful in killing her children, but she's paralyzed, that I had a moment of clarity, of sensibility about myself, and thought, oh my God, what am I thinking? What if I did do that and my son died and I had lived and was paralyzed and had to, and it didn't work out the way that, in my mind, sick mind, suffering postpartum depression, thought that it would work. So just to let you all know, you know, it doesn't make you a horrible person for having these thoughts. People have them. It's real. It's a real thing. It's just a matter of getting help and getting past it. But what do y'all think about this situation? What do you think about this case? Do you think that she was suffering such postpartum depression that this is where it drove her? Or do you think that she had a moment of psychosis? I don't think the psychosis thing fits, but I do feel like the postpartum thing fits. I think that is much more accurate. So let me know what y'all think. Let me know what other cases you want to hear about. Lisa has suggested one, so I will look into that. And I'm also watching the trial of the teenager who stabbed her mother and hit her upside the head with a frying pan, so that she wouldn't get found out about not going to college. Crazy. But anyway, Hasamnida, I appreciate you all so much. Thank you. Please like, subscribe, and share this channel. Make sure you ring the notification bell so you know when I'm going to be on. Lisa and Maureen know when I'm on. So and they watch my videos, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.